Well, I guess since there's more than just Lacey watching now, I should maybe tell a little bit about myself, how I ended up in Belfast. My family used to live here, actually, so I knew the city a bit before I came for university, or to do my PhD rather. But my dad is Dutch and my mom is Canadian. My mom still lives in Canada, actually. And when I was, I guess, around seven, my dad was offered a job over here with Queen's. He's an environmental scientist. He studied various aquatic related things in the Netherlands and then in Canada, and he was sort of drafted over by Queen's to work on some, I don't actually remember, something to do with the bodies of water, Northern Ireland. And yeah, so we were over here for a couple of years, and something happened with my dad's job, and I don't actually know what the situation was. I was just a kid, so they don't really tell you these things, but basically something went pretty wrong, and my dad was basically accused of fabricating results, I found out later. So I don't really know any of the other details, but my dad lost his job, and we stayed over here for a little while because my mom still was working. She was a nurse, but it didn't really, it wasn't easy from what I remember. And my dad was quite depressed, I think. So I guess maybe not surprisingly, my dad and mom weren't doing too well after that, and eventually my dad thought it would be better for them to get separated. I remember the day that they told me. It was pretty awful, actually. I thought I had the best family ever. I didn't think anything like that would ever happen. But there you go. So my mom and I moved back to Vancouver, which is where her family's from. And I lived there up until a year ago when I came over here. Not quite a year ago. So, yeah, but Belfast has a lot of sad memories for me. Not just because it was a hard time for my family when we were here, which it was, but also because I think my dad loved the city and he loved Northern Ireland a lot, and he really loved his work here. And when he lost his job, it just destroyed the dad that I knew, and all the circumstances surrounding it, which, like I said, I was quite young, so I didn't absorb the gravity of that back then. But yeah, it was a rough time, and after we left, we said that we were going to stay in touch, and for the first couple of months we did, and then the phone calls got less frequent, and I think my dad was getting really bad by then. And I guess my parents separated in June of that year, and then in January we found out that my dad committed suicide. So he spent the last part of his life in Belfast, and sometimes I think this is one of the reasons why I came back here. I'd like to know what he experienced here. I'd like to know what happened and what made him decide to do what he did. I don't know, it's just a way of being close to him, I guess. It's weird when you're a kid, when you're 9, you don't really understand your parents yet as people. They're your parents. And especially in the past few years, I feel like I've gotten to know my mom so much better, in a completely different way as an adult. And I never got to do that with my dad, and I wish that I had that chance, but I'll take what I can get at this point. Anyway, it's one of the reasons why I came back here, so there's that. And he didn't leave me a lot of happy memories in general, my dad. He was great, and our family was great, but he worked so hard that I realized later on it was really my mom that made things great. And she really put on a happy face, I think, when she was lonely, which I guess I find myself doing these days as well. But my dad, he loved his work. He worked really hard, and I definitely get my love of science and my love of hard work and a tendency to get kind of caught up in one thing and forget about everything else. I definitely get that from my dad. I just hope that I don't get so caught up in it that it ever defines me that much. I think that was the worst thing that could have happened to him, was to lose that. He was a biologist, so sometimes I tell myself that it was because he got too close. He liked to study things under a microscope, to study living things under a microscope. And I prefer to be far away, to look at stars. It's a little safer, a little more distant, and I like to think there's a difference, but maybe there's not. Anyway, that's a little bit about me, and